everybody and welcome to this video on Point Quote Explain. Some teachers might call it PEE and ask you to pee all over the page and they call it Point Evidence Explain, but both things are exactly the same. And today I'm going to explain what you need to do in each section of Point Quote Explain, and also explain why we as teachers always ask you to use this technique in both your exam answers and your essays. Now, I will say that higher level candidates that are aiming for the A's and A stars may not need to stick so prescriptively to this structure in their answers and their essays, but it is a good starting point and it's an easy technique that you can have in your mind in the exam and on your controlled assessments, just to make sure that you cover everything you need to in order to answer the question properly. So why do we keep banging on about PQE? Well, most of the time it's because we want you to answer the question itself. In exam situations, we can get nervous, so we often do forget things that we need to do. Answering the question's one of them, and whenever I look at exam papers or essays, sometimes I will get students that just waffle on and don't even actually answer the question that they've been asked to answer. You need to be specific. You need to make sure that you stick to PQE and you need to do your point, quote and explain in order to cover that. So the first things first, you need to make sure you answer the question, but you also need to make sure that you can prove or support your ideas, and that's where the quote bit comes in PQE. How else does your teacher or the examiner know that you've actually read the source or extract that you're answering the question on? So that quote bit is really important. The bit where you get your most marks and the bit where you can show that you're being perceptive or you're using your inference skills is the explain bit, and you've got to demonstrate that you understand what the writer is saying really, but also what is suggested by those words. So you need to use your inference skills, and that is covered in other videos on my channel. So that's point, quote, explain and why you need to do it. So in the point bit of point, quote, explain, you need to answer the question in your own words. Now you can do that just by answering it in your own words and then including a quote, or if you want to be slightly more sophisticated, you can use embedded quotes to complete the sentence itself. So on my channel I have a video on question 1, and it looks at this source about a vlogger called John David Glaude and his experience of weight loss, and I ask you to answer this question: what do you understand about John David Glaude's experience and the issues associated with extreme weight in the article? And you can get this source on my website aceyourexams.wordpress.com if you want to have a go at this. But I'm just going to show you how you would do point, quote, explain for one paragraph of this answer. So the point, we need to answer that question in our own words, could be: at the beginning of the article, we learn that John David Glaude was morbidly obese before his phenomenal transformation. So we're telling the examiner that we know that John David Glaude was seriously overweight and that he had a huge change in order to change that weight. But we're going to use the quotes, and we're going to use embedded quotes to show greater sophistication. So we've used the quotes morbidly obese and phenomenal transformation to actually answer the question. Okay, so that is our point and our quote in one really. Then we would go on to the quote if we hadn't already included embedded quotes. So this is where you have to prove that you've read the source and that you understand it, and therefore you've been able to extract relevant information. Okay, so like I said, what we've done is we've used embedded quotes in this example, and we've taken the quotes morbidly obese and phenomenal transformation. Also, thinking about it, if you do use embedded quotes, you're going to be saving time as well. So instead of writing a clunky paragraph, or we learn that he was really overweight and that he had a huge change, we know this because the writer uses the quote blah blah blah, morbidly obese and phenomenal transformation. Instead of doing that and writing all of that, we've actually condensed what we've written by using the embedded quotes. So in an exam where time is a premium really, it's better to use embedded quotes because you're writing less and you're taking less time. So we've done our point and our quote, and then we need to do our explain. So we need to look at the words in that quote, pick out specific words, and we need to explain what is inferred or suggested by those words. So here the explanation says, this suggests that Claude's weight was seriously affecting his health, and indeed it is likely that his lifespan would have been cut short if he had not lost the weight. So that bit there covers the word morbidly, okay, the word morbidly obese. So we've looked at that word morbid and we've thought, well, that's related to death. And then we've used our inference skills to suggest what the writer is saying about Claude's weight. Then we've taken the word phenomenal, and we've said also the fact that his weight loss is described as phenomenal implies that losing such a staggering amount of weight would have been extremely difficult, if not nigh on impossible, for most people. Okay, so again, we've picked out a specific word in the quote and we've thought about what that word means and what it suggests. Okay. So we've done morbidly obese and we've focused on the word morbidly, and we need to make sure as well in this section that we relate it back to the question itself. And if you remember, the question was, what do you understand about his experience and the issues? So we know that being morbidly obese is an issue, so we've explained that, we've covered the issue section of the question. Okay, then we talked about the word phenomenal, and actually that is his experience, so the transformation itself is his experience. So we've actually linked our explain section back to the question, and that's where you get the higher marks, is using your inference skills, explaining what is suggested by specific words in the quotes you've chosen, and then linking it back to the question. Okay, so that's point, quote, explain. I'd like to thank you for taking the time to listen today. Make sure you check out my other videos on my channel. I've got videos which cover each of the questions on the higher tier and foundation tier AQA GCSE English and English language exams. You can also follow me on Twitter at AishaExams, and head over to aishaexams.wordpress.com for loads of free downloads. Thanks for listening.